Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. I would like to rejoin the Evil Sky Pavilion. I have nowhere else to go. Please grant me this request, Master. Yi Tianqin struggled to get up on the fiend monk's hand seal before she kneeled. Her injuries and swaying body did not hamper her determination. People kneel at the heavens, the earth, and their parents. A master for a day, a father forever. Kneeling at her master was akin to kneeling at her father. Zhou had every right to accept this gesture. Everyone in the Evil Sky Pavilion was watching this intently. They looked at Zhou expectantly. Who could remain unmoved by this? A person's heart was made of flesh, after all. A master and a disciple, an old man and a young lady, one kneeling and the other standing. After what seemed like hours, Zhou finally said, "All right." His reply was concise and to the point. Yi Tianqin smiled before she closed her eyes and fell backward. Zhou waved his sleeve. The energy seal carried her into the barrier like a boat. The four elders circulated their primal qi at the same time and caught Yi Tianqin in the air. Yi Tianqin was finally back. Zhou shifted his gaze away from Yi Tianqin and looked at Lu Ge and Su Shang in the distance. Su Shang was heavily injured, but he could still fight. His eyes brimming with horror. Lu Ge, on the other hand, seemed unaffected. Apart from his slightly disheveled hair, he seemed uninjured. Zhou rose slowly into the air. His expression grew extremely frosty. He stared at the duo motionlessly. Lu Ge and Su Shang did not flee, seemingly confident about going against him. However, he did not care about their reasons at all. Then, he looked at the sword in Lu Ji's hand, high void, before he stared at Lu Ge. Lu Ge met Zhou's gaze. At this juncture, there was no turning back. Lu Ge was about to speak when Zhou said, "I gave you a chance." His anger was palpable despite his calm voice. He dove without warning. The others exclaimed in shock. Their eyes were glued to the pavilion master as he showcased his wondrous might. When the pavilion master flew down, they could hardly contain their awe and excitement. "I spared your lives, but you're insistent about them throwing away. Seems like you no longer want it." Zhou raised his fist and charged toward Lu Ge and Su Shang. Su Shang's face flushed red as his battle spirit rose. He had spent many years on the battlefield. He was not afraid of death. He pounded his chest like a gorilla before energy surged out of his body. He cried out, "Your Majesty, stand back. I'll fight him." Then, he flew to meet Zhou like a fired arrow. Fist against fist. Zhou's right fist was wrapped in an energy seal that glowed with a blue light. Bam! The blue and golden lights collided. A vertical blast of energy exploded. The outcome was just as expected. Crack! A crisp sound rang in the air. Su Shang's right arm was severed as he flew back. He had no time to react at all. He flew back the same way he came. Boom! Su Shang shot past Lu Ge and crashed heavily onto the ground, spraying dirt everywhere. Lu Ge did not catch Su Shang. Instead, he was shocked by the power packed in Zhou's punch. A person who cultivated an energy to its extreme had to put in painstaking effort during the body tempering stage and cultivate their bodies to the extreme. The Ji Tiandao he knew was not a person who was skilled in energy fists. How could that punch be so powerful? As the dust settled, Su Shang's vision cleared. He was in a pit. Coughing violently, he pressed his hand to the stump on his shoulder. He crawled out of the pit before he spat out blood due to his heavy injuries. Blood spilled on his chest and stained the ground red. Zhou said tonelessly, "It seems like you enjoy bullying my disciples?" Su Shang felt stabbing pain all over his body. He felt life draining from his body. "Weak," Zhou said ruthlessly. Su Shang looked at the skies. His breathing was shallow now. He could no longer move. Still alive? What a good punching bag. Lu Ge frowned deeply. He clenched his fist and raised high void. Brother. Ji. You're unworthy. Lu Zhou moved swiftly toward Lu Ge and cut him short. He flipped his palm. Unnamed materialized in his hand. An energy sword swirled around Unnamed. Lu Ji's face fell. He raised high void and moved to parry the blow. There was a flash of cold light. Bam. Unnamed and high void collided. After this exchange, both opponents' backs were facing each other. This sword is high void, a super heaven-grade weapon. There are 9-leaf formation veins on it, which is supposed to be a bane for 9-leaf cultivators. You've lost. As soon as Lu Ge finished speaking. Crack. A crack appeared on high void before it broke. The crisp sound made Lu Ji's heart shudder. He turned to look, and his eyes widened. What happened? His heart sank to the depths of the valley at once. He pulled his arm back and studied his weapon. The other half of the blade had fallen, only half of high void remained in his hand. Lu Ge looked at Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou held Unnamed in his right hand, his back was still facing Lu Ge. The delicate-looking Unnamed was exuding a black runic aura at this moment. What's that weapon? Lu Ge exclaimed in shock. Lu Zhou did not answer him. Instead, he flipped his palm and aimed it at the ground. Unnamed fell, wrapped in a blue light. It shone like a torch in winter. Its speed increased. Lu Ge looked down before realization dawned on him. He dove. Stop. Lu Zhou raised his palm and launched a palm seal. Bam. Lu Ge was sent flying. Unnamed, shrouded in a blue radiance, descended from the skies. The energy sword suddenly expanded and stabbed Su Shang. Bam. Su Shang was already heavily wounded to begin with. There was no way he could have withstood this blow. Unnamed pinned Su Shang firmly onto the ground like a nail. I'll have Su Shang's life. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 1,500 merit points. At this moment, Lu Ge realized he had severely underestimated Lu Zhou's strength. His eyes were brimming with disbelief as he was sent flying back. He gripped what remained of high void tightly to stabilize himself. He glanced at Su Shang, who was impaled by Unnamed. Why? I've done everything for the people, for Great Yen. Why must you attain the 9-leaf stage? He fired one question after another, his emotions were clearly in turmoil. Lu Zhou looked at Lu Ge indifferently. You keep spouting nonsense. I'll have your life. He flipped his palm. Whiz. With a zing, Unnamed dislodged itself from Su Shang's chest and flew back into Lu Zhou's hand. The energy sword elongated as he charged toward Lu Ge in the air. The sword vibrated. Lu Ge tapped his Dantian Sea of Qi. There was a surge of rich primal qi as his sea of qi began to burn. The red veins on High Void's blade burned as well. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the veins. High Void was now gleaming with a peculiar scarlet glow. I didn't want to do this. Since you've forced my hand, Brother Ji, I'll fight you to death. He swung his sword. The scene from moments ago was reenacted. Both opponents passed each other. At this moment, a rich blue Madra ward appeared on Lu Zhou. A clear heart would show one's nature and free one's mind. A heart set like a stone would be as immovable as a mountain. Bam. High Void drew across the ward Madra. Unnamed drew across Lu Ji's protective energy. Another round ended right after the opening. Lu Ge lowered his head and saw his punctured protective energy that now resembled a deflated balloon as his primal qi escaped. Then, he turned to look at Lu Zhou's Madra ward. There was only a scratch on the Madra ward that was fast healing. He was stunned. He had lost again. His fingers trembled. He was too careless. His knuckles whitened around High Void's hilt. Lu Zhou's voice rang in the air. You dare challenge me with that strength? Open the box, Luca said. His voice reverberated in the skies. Understood. The two remaining Imperial bodyguards hastily opened the second box. When the box was opened, a stack of talismans flew out toward Luca. They moved at a speed greater than grand techniques. Luca was covered in talismans in just a blink of an eye. The talismans wrapped around him tightly and seemed to be dissolving into his flesh and blood. The red runes on High Void's broken blade flew toward Luca as well and merged with him. He looked somewhat like a mummy now. The red tunes shone. Lu Zhou looked at the red talismans and said indifferently, "You're finally willing to use it." Lu Ji's voice was now hoarse. He laughed maniacally before he said, "These talismans were left behind by the mysterious elite. I'm like an immortal. When the talisman's effects are gone, I will die as well." Lu Zhou looked at the talismans that seemed to have melted into Lu Ji's body and shook his head. "I was expecting some treasure, but instead, it's just some arcane art." "This is enough," Luca retorted. "Brother Ji. Seems like you know the nine-leaf stage is evil. Otherwise, why did you seal your memories away?" Luca said. "You know about my memory crystal? I won't allow anyone to attain the nine-leaf stage. It matters not that you're my old friend. If I can dissuade you, I'll naturally try to dissuade you. However, since you can't be dissuaded, I'll kill you." As soon as Luca finished speaking, he moved at lightning speed, leaving only a red streak in his wake. Amidst the shouts from the Evil Sky Pavilion's members, he charged straight at Lu Zhou. How fast? The others thought the battle would be a difficult one. Lu Zhou suddenly raised his hand, pointing 5 fingers ahead. His hand shone with a blue light before a huge blue palm seal flew out and landed on Luca. Crack. Lu Zhou clenched his fingers, holding Luca in a firm grip. He could sense that Luca had indeed grown stronger, but he could also feel the extraordinary power's endurance had increased. The palm seal consumed a quarter of his extraordinary power. Immortal? Lu Zhou raised his hand and looked at the mummified Luca. He could see talisman had melted on Lu Ji's face, making it seem as though some barbaric runes had been carved branded on him. It was a truly strange sight. You can't kill me. I'll try." The 5 fingers tightened their grip. The popping sound of dislocated joints rang in the air. It was a rather jarring noise. The people of the Evil Sky Pavilion did not expect Lu Zhou to suddenly clench his hand. It was a ruthless and cold move, but it was satisfying and direct at the same time. They were moved by this. Nobody truly knew how strong a 9-leaf cultivator was, after all. However, after witnessing Lu Zhou's technique, they were reminded again that 9-leaf cultivators were really unimaginably powerful. Whenever they made a move, it seemed as though they were capable of destroying heaven and earth. When the 5 fingers tightened into a fist, it felt as though a biscuit had been crushed. Through the palm seal, Lu Zhou could clearly feel that the fiend monk's hand seal, released through the power of past lives, had crushed Lu Ji's internal organs and ground his bones together. However, he did not receive the system notification. Soon enough, the palm seal faded away. Luca dropped from the skies and crashed onto the ground with a boom. He's not dead? Lu Zhou dove. Should I use a deadly strike card? Doesn't seem to be worth it, though. Currently, Lu Zhou had about a quarter of extraordinary power left. All of a sudden, Lu Ji's body shone with a crimson light. His bones shifted back into their positions. His body wriggled as his organs began to heal. Above the Evil Sky Pavilion, Mingshi Yin's jaws dropped when he saw this. What kind of fucking arcane art is that? The others nodded, agreeing with Mingshi Yin's words. That's gross. The people of Great Yen have never cultivated evil arts that bring people back from the dead. Even if it's an arcane art, I've only heard of something like a human controlling a puppet through formation veins. I've never heard of anyone being granted immortality even if it's just for a short time. Those veins are the same as the ones on the coffin brought by the Rolian. Could this be an arcane art of the other tribes? Unlikely. If the other tribes have such arcane arts, they would have used it a long time ago in a large scale and attacked Great Yen. Lu Ji's trump card and technique had truly exceeded their expectations. Lu Zhou looked down at the mummy that was returning to life. Lu Ge flipped over and spat out a mouthful of blood, his breathing was labored. However, he did not seem to be in pain. Instead, a smile could be seen on his face. The talismans worked. He was invincible and immortal. This only further proved that the mysterious elite's words were true. He looked at the skies and chuckled as he said, "I can't die." Lu Zhou had been thinking about Lu Ji's weakness. The coffin's occupant had said that nobody could live forever. He looked down at Lu Ge and said, "It's clear you trust the elite's warning. I'm sure he must have told you nobody can live forever." Lu Ge felt as though he was struck by a bolt of lightning. His eyes widened as he looked up. "You've met him?" Lu Zhou saw the crimson light shining from the veins on Lu Ji's body. He raised a hand, unnamed appeared in his hand. Black runes swirled around unnamed. Were black and red antagonistic? Lu Zhou remembered the inscriptions inside the Mausoleum of Swords and Emperor Yangshuo's tomb. "Did you stay in the Mausoleum of Sword for a long time?" Lu Ge stood up and said, "A great deal of yin and yang energy is needed to cultivate an immortal body." "No wonder." Lu Zhou nodded, pleased. The body was the vessel. If a person wanted more power, the vessel would have to be improved. The powers of the tomb's inscriptions seemed to be the same as the powers of the red veins. Lu Ge spread his arms and said while facing the skies, "The truth here is that I'm now immortal." "You've spoken too soon." Lu Zhou joined his palms together. He channeled the remaining quarter of extraordinary power into Unnamed. Unnamed instantly changed into countless energy swords that rained down from the skies above. Lu Ge looked up, intending to dodge. Alas, he discovered that he could not escape. The energy swords swiftly rained down on him. He laughed maniacally. "Ji Tian Dao, my great limit has already passed. I kept myself alive by absorbing life force with these runes. I've known about the secret of the golden lotus absorbing life 300 years ago, but I chose not to tell you. What can you do about it?" Swoosh. 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 Thousands upon thousands of energy swords pierced Lu Ji's chest. Everything seemed to freeze at this moment. Unnamed returned to Lu Zhou's hand. He glanced at Unnamed. The black runes were still there even though their numbers were reduced. He looked at Lu Ge, who had been stabbed in the chest. Lu Ge looked at his own chest. Some of the red runes on the red veins on his chest were being erased by the black runes. His wounds were not healing. Fresh blood kept gushing out. He could not believe his eyes. "No." Lu Zhou lowered himself slightly and looked down at Lu Ge as he said, "See? There isn't anyone who can't be killed." Lu Ge looked around his surroundings. He was at a loss. Everything was slipping away. The rivers, the mountains, his people, everything in this world were rushing past him. His wounds were still not closing. Lu Ge staggered several steps back as though he had seen a cavalry charging at him. His gaze grew hollow as he flailed his arms wildly. He screamed, "Kill, kill, kill." This was interspersed with panic attacks. "Don't come here. Go away." His blood stained the ground red. As he flailed and stumbled around, he left trails of blood in his wake. "I won't die. I really won't die." "You lie, you're lying." Lu Ge continued until his voice turned hoarse. After his final word, he stopped moving abruptly. Blood flowed out of his 7 apertures. Tears streamed out of his eyes down his face. Lu Zhou did not make any move. He only regarded Lu Ge coldly. As the saying went, a person would talk kindly on his deathbed. Lu Ge suddenly said, "Was I mistaken?" Lu Zhou did not answer him. There was a brief moment of silence. Lu Ge seemed to have thought things through. He chuckled. Then, he placed his hands on his back. With a haughty expression on his face, he looked at Zhou and said, Brother G, can you send me off? Where's the crystal? You should check out Lulan's royals. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Zhou struck with his palm. A huge palm seal descended from the skies. Lu Gu maintained his posture that was befitting of an emperor. He spread his arms, looked up, and smiled. I hope that I can be your friend again in the next life. Boom. Zhou pushed down with his fingers. Abandon wisdom. Lu Gu was reduced to ashes that scattered in the wind. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 2,000 merit points. Meanwhile, Huang Shiji and Guiran kept moving westward from the foot of Golden Court Mountain. Nobody knew how long they had been fighting. Both opponents exchanged blows and were near the limits of their respective primal chis. The two of them stood across each other. Guiran glared at Huang Shiji and said, Huang Shiji, you old geezer. I swear I'll kill you today. Huang Shiji sat on the ground, chuckled, and said, Oh. Scary. You. Guiran was straining to keep his body upright. He said coldly, You're an island master, but you behave like a gangster. What a shame. What an insult. To tell you the truth, I learned this from my disciple. A man won't live long if he cares about his pride too much. Look at you, aren't you tired standing there? You must be tired. I'm not. I'll be fine after some rest. After that, I'll kill you. You wish. Guiran stomped his feet and joined his palm together. He released a burst of expansive heavenly energy.